I came here not really knowing anything about Miami, and I was immediately blown away by how abundant and how diverse the wildlife was here. You can still see traces of the original wild Miami in the city of Miami today. There are still animals like the raccoons and the land crabs that have been here for many thousands of years.
Coming as a biologist, you kind of are almost hit in the face by how much diversity there is here. Everywhere you look, there's all sorts of animals that when you start looking a little bit closer, you start noticing that almost every animal that you see comes from different parts of the world.
A lot of the animals that are the most common, they come from South America, Central America, the Caribbean, even Africa and Southeast Asia.
This is an entire ecosystem built from plants and animals that we've brought from other parts of the world. I think at first that sort of is unsettling and you don't like it as a biologist, but over time, I feel like I've come to appreciate that what's happening here in Miami is something that is just totally unique. We're in the middle of a great experiment.
Hi, my name is Nicole.
And I'm Emanuel Meneses.
And today we want to talk to you about documenting wildlife in South Florida, especially in Miami. When you walk outside in Miami, it's surprisingly easy to find wildlife, and it's even easier to just pull out your phone and take a picture of any animal you see. It might be a lizard, a heron, or even a manatee. To thoroughly document wildlife using your digital devices, it is crucial to start with a clean lens. Wipe away dust and smudges with your shirt or microfiber cloth to get the highest quality possible. Remember to keep a respectable distance from any animals you hope to capture. Wild creatures can be sensitive to human presence, and you want to observe them in the most natural state without causing any fears or disturbance. Set your camera's mode to portrait, zoom in to get the best quality, and experiment with angles and compositions to perfectly capture the animal's characteristics and behavior. This will ensure you can identify the animal. If you're seeking a more budget-friendly way to birdwatch than any traditional camera or other high-end equipment, consider using a ring camera or a bird body as a viable alternative. Despite its simple design, a ring camera is outfitted with sensors that enable it to record wildlife effectively, preserving both images and videos of any visiting creatures. These devices often come with user-friendly interfaces and motion detection capabilities, which means they can quietly monitor an area without requiring constant human intervention. This affordable option allows for continuous observation while minimizing disruptions to the environment, ensuring that the wildlife you wish to capture remains comfortable and does not face any stress. The United States is often called a melting pot of cultures, and honestly, I think Florida is the best example of that. We're not just connected through the people who live here, we're connected through everything those people bring. New habits, new lifestyles, and even new species. Every trend, every move, it all leaves a mark in our environment. But while this cultural and ecological blend might seem exciting, we're also witnessing firsthand how harmful invasive species can disrupt the delicate balance of our ecosystems. That's why it's crucial to restore native plants across South Florida. They provide habitats, promote biodiversity, support wildlife in a way that foreign species can't. By bringing back this indigenous flora, we're not only helping mend the environmental damage caused by non-native introductions, but we're also strengthening the region's natural resilience. However, ensuring a lasting impact demands more than just individual action. It calls for policy changes, protesting for legislation that protects these native landscapes and wildlife that depend on them is essential. Through legal safeguards and collective advocacy, we can preserve Florida's unique ecological heritage for generations to come. Another way to preserve South Florida's ecosystem is by implementing native plants into our backyards, our balconies, or windows. The change is small, and it starts with small steps. The co-founder of Flora and Natives. So, hi, my name is Nicole O'Reilly.
And I'm Emanuel Meneses.
And we're here with Mauricio, an entrepreneur and trailblazer in native landscaping in South Florida. His wife serves as the chair of the Florida Landscape Committee, and together they run sister companies that focus on bringing back native life into Florida.
What inspired you to start your company?
My wife and I, we are avid campers. So we go to camping pretty often in the winter. We noticed every time we come back from a camping trip, very happy and, full of energy. And because we were like engulfed in wildlife and green, every time we come back to Miami, we realize that the landscaping in the neighborhoods has nothing to do with what we experience out there in the wild. The vegetation that was being used or is being used in the urban setting does not reflect the historical vegetation that Florida hosts. And after we made that connection, we realized that other issues we've seen happening in regarding landscaping, regarding wildlife, were connected to the lack of knowledge or the lack of use of native vegetation in urban settings. So we found a niche. On the parallel to that, we were also like plant lovers, and at home we were experimenting with like native plants, and we saw the change that native plants could bring to your home garden.
What specific species of wildlife would you say benefits the most from the plants you offer?
We have like butterflies, we have pollinators like bees. We do have like small mammals like raccoons and possums. And I would say like all of them will like benefit from native vegetation in our gardens. We think that like wildlife is like we have to like leave Miami to encounter wildlife, but if you have the right plants in your yard, you will see a very wide amount of wildlife visiting your plants, either for food, for fruit, for the berries that some plants produce, or for the nectar that some flowers produce, for the shelter that some of these plants offer to wildlife. They are like they come straight to native vegetation because they've been interacting with native vegetation for many years, even before humans set foot in South Florida. Wildlife was already interacting with the flora that South Florida offered them.
Our next question would be, do you have any data or case studies showing how your plants have improved local diversity? And if you do, please feel free to send it to us and we'll show it on our screen.
As soon as we bought the house, we changed the landscape and we started incorporating native plants. And we noticed the change in a 1 year span. We noticed how butterflies started to visit their yard, how migratory birds had stopped in a yard in the migration south and north. You see them how they stop in your yard, and you can even recognize one bird that had crossed the Gulf of Mexico maybe last week, coming from the Caribbean or coming from like South America. Some birds do like a really long migration, and South Florida is like either their last or the first refueling station after they cross the Gulf. So some birds, they arrive so tired that when they find a suitable site where they can find water and food and shelter, they spend 2-3 days recharging and recovering from such a long trip. And you can see the same bird for 2 or 3 days in your yard, kind of like recharging energy, So that's like a piece of like data information that I literally saw when we changed the garden from like a fruit tree sort of a garden into a native vegetation garden.
Do any of your plants provide food or shelter for native birds or small mammals?
I would say that shrubs would be like I don't want to say the quintessential plant, but they do offer nectar when first you have the flower. And after the flower is gone, that was like used by pollinators. You have the fruit that is used by many birds, also by small mammals like possums and raccoons, also rats.
I'd like to know what native plant species do you recommend for attracting hummingbirds or songbirds?
Birds are more like broad feeding, as a more broad feeding species. They can go feed either from insects all the way to fruits. And hummingbirds do feed in many flowers, flowers that I never thought they were going to feed. But I can mention two plants that will attract hummingbirds, like 100% guaranteed. And this will be the firebush, the native firebush, the Hamelia patens. And I could also recommend the coral honeysuckle. It's a vine that has a very beautiful red elongated flower that hummingbirds, like whatever the plant is, the hummingbirds will come.
What would you say is the biggest or are the biggest threats to native plant populations here in South Florida?
Overdevelopment is like our biggest threat, like bigger houses.
And the question would be, are there any native plant species that are currently at risk due to development or climate change? And what wildlife will be affected by this?
I know there's a few. I was reading an article the other day of a cactus that is native to the Lower Keys, that only one remaining population of this cactus exists, and it's we are about to lose it because of the sea level rise.
Thank you so much for meeting with us. It was a pleasure to hear you talk about what you like and what you work on. And that was it.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Anytime, I'm more than happy to like talk about native plants and share our beautiful experience with the world of our native plants and attracting wildlife to our projects.
All right, now that that's over, let's see if you guys were paying attention. Out of these birds, which one is considered migratory? A, the hummingbird, B, the cardinal, C, the blue jay, or D, the house sparrow? You have 10 seconds to give your answer. Good luck. All right, time's up. The answer is A, the hummingbird. Kind of plant mentioned by our guest is going extinct due to rising sea levels? A, milkweed, B, cactus, C, coral bean, D, ferns. Like the last one, 10 seconds on the clock. Good luck. All right, time's up. The answer is B, the cactus. Let's see how well you'll do in this one. What is the biggest threat to native plant populations? Is it A, human development, B, global warming, C, rising sea levels, or D, overly acidic soil? You got 10 seconds. Good luck. All right, time's up. The answer is A, human development. I hope you got it right, and I'll see you in our final game. All right, what do you say we spice things up a bit? This next game is going to be a mix match game. You have 20 seconds to complete it. Good luck.
And that was all. Thank you for watching.